Good afternoon. My name is Viv Vipperman. I'm here with Wade Myers, General Partner of Eagle Venture Fund, and just excited to have a chance to talk to him a little bit. It's about some of the exciting things happening in the Eagle Venture portfolio, some of the things he's excited about, and get to know him a little bit better. Wade, tell us a little bit about your work at Eagle Venture, and as we get started.
Yes, well, I'm one of the co-founders and general partners of the fund, and my role at Eagle Venture Fund is I'm one of the co-founders and general partners, and I focus specifically on the economic opportunities vertical. So the practice area of investing in companies that are upskilling individuals so they can make more money, or investing in platforms that help connect companies with resources they need, especially capital formation, so helping startups raise capital and helping companies that are underway improve their profitability, basically stimulate the overall economic opportunities, whether it's growing the economy or upskilling and so forth.
Fantastic. Well, let's dive into that a little bit. Tell me about some of the companies that you're working on right now and that you guys are supporting as a part of that portfolio.
Yeah, so let's take the individual upskilling as an example. So one of our portfolio companies is called VeriSkills, where they basically can onboard an individual that is looking for a job but needs more skills. And so they do a bit of recruiting and upskilling to make sure that they can place someone into a new job that pays much more. On average, an individual can get placed in a job within 1 month and get a 2.5x increase
Wow.
in their income. So they kind of turned the model on its head. So they're not just selling upskilling services and charging an individual for that.
Right, who doesn't have the money?
Yeah, because if you're working in at a low end job and you're making minimum wage, you don't exactly have the time or the money to invest in upskilling. So knowing that, what VeriSkills does is go to the employer that has the job openings. And for example, manufacturing, there's 500,000 unfilled manufacturing openings in the US. And so they go to those companies and say, what kind of jobs do you have open? What are the skills requirements? And at what minimum skill requirement does someone have to have before you bring them in and start to apprentice them in the manufacturing environment? And so they're really kind of almost selling recruiting services to the manufacturing companies and then taking exactly what that requirement is and then presenting that to the job seekers and then quickly upskilling them to meet that minimum skill required. And then basically saying you can come onto our platform and train for free, absolutely no cost. Wow. And we'll literally guarantee you a job as you test out to a minimum skill level. So that really meets two critical needs. It fills this job that has been unfilled, and it helps upskill someone to meet that job requirement, and that they make a lot more money. So that's an example that we really like to see that kind of impact, and especially because we're able to impact someone that wouldn't have the ability to pay for the upskilling in the first place.
Right.
And so in this case, the employer pays for the upskilling and they pay a recruiting fee.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's one. Are there other companies in the portfolio?
Oh yeah, quite a few. So I'll take another one, which is Proforma. So I'm fond of saying that half of a founder's time is wasted raising capital, and then half of that capital that they painfully raised is often wasted on non-strategic stuff. The back office, tools, templates, anything but building the product or the service that they want to build. And so there's a lot of inefficiency for an early stage startup when they are first trying to prove out an idea and trying to raise capital and then how to employ that capital properly. So Proforma has a whole tool set to help a founder plan for their startup and prepare for the diligence that they will undergo when they try to raise capital, match them with capital providers like angel investors and seed capital firms, facilitate that diligence process, facilitate the valuation process, because most founders don't know what their startup is worth, what their idea is worth, how good is it, how should I think about it, how do I improve my chances of raising capital. So in that case, again, it's part of the developing economic opportunities by helping startup founders get the capital they need, refine their plan, and really greatly improve their chances of success.
That's awesome. I've heard about a couple other amazing companies that are in the Eagle Venture portfolio. Tell me one of the others you're most excited about.
Well, another example in that same vein of Proforma is a company called Profit Inc. So there's all these lower middle market and small businesses in the U.S. Let's call them businesses from 1 million in revenue to 100 million in revenue. Most of these family-owned businesses don't have the skill sets in the business to really prepare well for an exit, to improve profitability, to do all those kinds of things to prepare for a liquidity event. There's going to be trillions of dollars of wealth that are going to transition from the current baby boomer generation to the next generation. In most cases, they don't have children that want to be in the family business, and there aren't a lot of new up and coming professionals that want to buy into a small business. So in most cases, their exit will be to a larger publicly held company or a private equity company, or private equity backed company, I should say, that'll be acquiring them, but they want to prepare well to do their exit planning, to be able to gain as much value as they can when they transition that wealth. So Profit Inc. was really formed as an app and a set of AI tools and other tools and best practices to help these small businesses greatly improve their profitability and improve how they select customers, how they grow, and especially with their exit planning, and to facilitate that exit that these small business owners will need to unlock that value for the next generation.
Oh, fantastic. And that comes from years of doing some consulting work, first at BCG and then also at Boldmore. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you saw companies used to face and the things that you built this technology around?
Yeah, so Profit Inc., I should probably say I'm the founder of Profit Inc. It may sound a little self-serving to be talking about this company, but back when I was at Boston Consulting Group right after business school, one of my first assignments was to do a profitability analysis for a large Fortune 500 company. And that experience was helped kind of start this whole idea of improving profitability, improving how companies price, how they select customers and markets, and just really being more effective at go-to-market and company operations. And the beauty of bringing all of that kind of rigor and analysis is that we can now take a McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group quality of deliverable and bring that all the way down to a small business owner who heretofore couldn't afford that kind of analysis, that kind of quality of deliverable. And we're doing that through machine learning, AI, and frameworks and templates and so forth that we've developed. And in most cases, a small business owner struggles with, how should I grow? And in many cases, when they attempt to grow, it just leads to unprofitability or profitability declining, because the easiest growth is usually the lowest hanging fruit, customers that only are attracted to you by a lower price or a promotion or whatever. And so it's just always a struggle, but every business owner wants to know how to grow and how to grow profitably, know how to increase profitability, know how to increase cash flow, and increase the valuation of the business. And oftentimes they need growth capital, but they don't know how much capital they would qualify for, what the best type of capital is, because there's a dozen different types of capital a small business owner can employ, in terms of senior debt, mezzanine debt, junior debt, private equity, et cetera. And so Profit Inc. provides this tool set to really help a small business owner that's not a finance expert, that's not an accounting expert, access all this kind of great tools and training and education and frameworks to help them do all those things they want to do. But especially knowing that there's going to be this huge transition of wealth and that they will have to exit.
So many people think about Eagle Venture Fund and they think about the Freedom Fund. They think about fighting human trafficking and child exploitation using incredible technology by getting behind great founders that are just doing incredible work in the trafficking space. But what oftentimes we don't get a chance to share as much about all the incredible things Eagle's doing in investing in healthcare technology and economic solutions to poverty. So today we want to get Wade to share a little bit more about some of the incredible things Eagle's doing in this economic solutions to poverty vertical that Eagle focus on. So Wade, share with us a little bit about all the things that Eagle's doing in economic solutions to poverty.
Yes, in terms of economic opportunities or economic solutions to poverty, That's the practice area that I focus on as a co-founder and general partner with Eagle. There's a couple of types of initiatives under the economic opportunities practice area that we focus on. One is upskilling to help individuals make more money by upskilling them and to get a higher paying job. Others are to help startup founders prepare for and plan and raise the capital they need to launch their idea. Another one is to help small business owners improve profitability, access the capital they need to reach their growth initiatives, and do exit planning so they can properly exit for the highest value possible. So those are the kinds of opportunities that we focus on.
Awesome. Now, recently, I've noticed on LinkedIn, you've talked a lot about helping startups, some of the challenges they face, from validation issues to problems in the market to raising capital. You've even talked about 50% of startups, fail for such and such reason. Can you share a little bit of the insights that you've had recently, and maybe one that you've got coming up that you're going to share?
Well, yeah, there's about 1 million startups each year in the U.S. And for every startup founder that tries to raise capital, only 1 in 262 are successful in raising capital. So the chances of actually raising capital are super low. And that's really frustrating because, as Josh Lerner, a Harvard Business School professor, says, most companies need outside capital in order to launch and grow. And so a necessary part of growing the overall economic opportunities in the U.S. is to help startup founders raise capital. And a lot of that is, in many cases, they're going to be first-time entrepreneurs, so they won't have done this process before.
Right.
So preparing them with a better business plan, financial forecasting, preparing them for diligence, matching them with investors, helping them understand the valuation, how the cap table works, all those kinds of things is what one of our companies in our portfolio, Proforma, does. It really is designed to help founders prepare for and raise the capital they need, and to help it on the other side, to help investors do a better job of diligencing an opportunity and really matching the startup founder with the proper investor.
Dude, that's fantastic. One of the things Eagle Venture Fund is often known for is our work in technology to fight human trafficking and slavery. One of the companies that's been built just in the last year, maybe even less than that, is a company called Hotel Shield. Can you tell us a little bit about the formation of that company and what you guys are focused on?
Right. Well, so one of the things that Eagle Freedom Fund has done is work with the Tim Tebow Foundation to put together kind of a gathering, a conference, an accelerator, if you will, around combating trafficking called the Clapham Accelerator that Vip, you run. Yeah. And so that is a convening of law enforcement, of nonprofits, for-profits, government officials, et cetera, that are all trying to combat trafficking. And what came out of that is the fact that about 80% of all sex trafficking in the U.S. happens in hotels, in the hospitality industry. So we know where it happens, but the hotel industry doesn't have a lot of the proper tools in place yet to properly combat trafficking. Really understanding who the bad guys are that are the traffickers or the perpetrators, or identifying known victims, or suspicious activity reporting, all the kinds of things that you need at a hotel, and a notification platform to say, okay, if there's all these signals, if housekeeping has reported the suspicious activity, if someone's signing at the front desk that is a known bad guy or a credit card associated with this kind of activity, what do we do with that? Which law enforcement agency, do we contact the hotel brand, the owner, the manager of the hotel? There's all kinds of parties involved in this. And so what came out of this convening of Clapham with our fund and all these constituencies across the U.S. was this notion of, we need a new company called Hotel Shield that provides an entire solution stack to help hotel brands manage all of this. To, number one, rescue victims, and to arrest the bad guys, the traffickers and the perpetrators, the Johns that are paying for sex, and also to protect the hotel brand, just to mitigate this entire issue, right? And so and there was, members that were attending these conferences that got really excited about this idea. So, three of us got together and formed a new company called Hotel Shield. And we are underway, and we've done pilots, like at the Super Bowl with a major hotel brand, and really, well underway combating the problem. We've also, out of that same convening with Eagle Freedom Fund, we created another company called True Path Vision, and a very specific solution set for combating trafficking that involves a lot of AI and facial and pattern recognition. And that is now, that's already producing revenue. We have pilots in multiple locations. And so, and that is a part of the Hotel Shield solution, but in its own right will be used in many other locations and settings besides hotels as well. But that's a couple of companies that have come out of the Clapham accelerator that you run, which is again this combination of effort between the Tim Tebow Foundation and Eagle Freedom Fund.
If I were to ask you, what are you most excited about Eagle Venture Fund today? Eagle Venture Fund has been in existence for 8 years. We've had 8 different funds across multiple countries, with specifically a few of them here in the U.S. What gets you excited about it? What's driving the energy today?
Well, what's fun about Eagle Venture Fund at this point, several years in, is we can see the companies that we invested in 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, et cetera. We can see them grow and mature and achieve success. So it's really fun. It's kind of like seeing your child grow up. We invested oftentimes at a pre-seed level or seed stage, so very early on. And it's fun to have watched the entrepreneurs grow their companies. It's fun to have helped them along the way and just be part of that journey of their success.
Awesome. As a venture capitalist, we can't not ask the question, what do you think about AI these days?
Yes, AI is interesting. So for those of us that were around during the dot-com craze, this reminds me a lot of that, where back then I was an entrepreneur during those days. I've been a software entrepreneur for over 30 years. And by simply adding .com to your name, it added a lot of value. VC tended to throw a lot of money at a .com. It feels very similar in terms of AI. A couple of things that this is just sort of my view. The LLMs, large language models, as a construct are not sustainable because they will eventually outgrow data center capacity, compute capacity, electrical capacity, and water capacity. LLMs are a static model that need to constantly be fed information, and they can't learn on their own. All the information has to be tagged, has to be orderly and stuffed into the model, if you will, for it to be relevant. And so that if you look at the kind of the projections and the dotted line, right, it sort of just takes over the world at some point in terms of, like, one stat that's really alarming is right now the AI compute effort in the country of Ireland consumes 21% of all of the electrical output of Ireland.
Wow.
21%. I mean, literally out of nowhere, in just 2 years, took on that much of the electrical power available. So that's kind of scary. So number one, I don't think LLMs are sustainable. Now, they're the first generation, if you will, of real productive AI that's been released in the marketplace. In most cases, I mean, like Google was what, the 17th search engine, right? So the first iteration of any kind of new technology normally gets leapfrogged or slipstreamed or fast followed by better versions. So my prediction is that LLMs will fail because they're not sustainable. They're too much of an energy and information hog, and they're too static, and don't learn on their own, et cetera. So what they will be replaced with eventually is AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence, which is more human-like, which has human reasoning. It's neuromorphic, learns on its own. Information doesn't need to be tagged. And, there's a lot of predictions. Is that a year away? Is it 5 years away? But, as I see these, different technologies coming onto the market, I just know that LLMs in their present form are not sustainable. So meanwhile, we're trying to bring up nuclear plants. We're trying to build massive data centers to support a current construct that's basically going to be rendered unsupportable, right? So it's like, please don't invest a gajillion dollars building data centers around the very initial, commercialized version of AI, because I don't think it's going to be sustainable. So another real problem with AI and a lot of venture investment in AI right now are merely the AI wrappers. So it's basically like it's open AI with a little bit of user interface on top that makes a process really easy. Those wrapper companies, and there's thousands of them that are all built on, some common platform like Claude or Google or OpenAI, they're providing very little value, and it's really easy to get outcompeted. It's thin margins, and you'll see stuff like Google will make a new announcement, and suddenly a new feature in Gemini, just undercuts 100 companies that all had that as a product, and now one new feature just knocks them out of the market, right? So there's a lot of messiness around AI right now, where a lot of venture capital has been invested in these wrapper companies where all they are is a UX on top of OpenAI. That's not sustainable, especially when I think about the underlying LLM architecture that I just said is unsustainable, right? So I think a whole lot of these little wrapper companies, these kind of UX companies on top of OpenAI, a lot of those will go out of business. In fact, the vast majority will go out of business. And I think LLMs will not survive in their present form. We'll see different architectures of AI and how the information is processed and how things, the whole transformer thing, all of that is going to change. So right now, I'm cautious on AI investing. I'm not throwing a lot of money at AI. I want AI to be built in as part of an overall tech-enabled process that truly is making a difference, that truly has a unique value proposition, that AI could be switched to a different architecture to perform even more efficiently than an LLM architecture. But AI should be bundled into a whole bunch of other value to have a sustainable business model. And unfortunately, I think a lot of the venture investments right now, not in our fund, but in other funds that I've seen, is just thrown at these companies that don't provide a lot of value.
One last question. Why do we invest in solving the world's greatest problems?
Because that's our motivation. They're, as a Christian, as a man of faith, I am called to help my fellow man. And there's a lot of big problems that could be focused on. But at Eagle Venture Fund, we focused on 3 core problems that we think are solvable, and especially with the help of technology, are solvable in an efficient manner, right? So I think it's much better to give a man the ability to fish, to teach him to fish, than it is to simply give him a fish, right? And so that leads to things like let's have upskilling investments, where people can be upskilled into better training, better paying jobs, right? So everything we're doing is to try to be a hand up, a helping hand, and not a handout, right? And so if we think about what we're doing, we're trying to help companies be more efficient, get the capital they need, help individuals get upskilled, help individuals that don't have healthcare get access to healthcare, help those that are not free in terms of their agency. They're being trafficked or being taken advantage of or being exploited, to help them to gain freedom, and then to upskill them to make a living wage so that they don't go back into trafficking. So everything we're doing is to try to promote the individual freedom and upward mobility, and to grow the overall economic opportunity for the betterment of mankind. So those are the kinds of things that tech enablement can really make more efficient. So because we're investing in tech companies, those are the kind of solutions that fit well with tech enablement to make the world a better place.